Linguistics, there are major distinctions, the 6 major distinctions that we speak about. So those are the distinctions that we would understand one by one. So the very first description, the very first is the speech versus writing. So that means either it is through oral where I am speaking, or it is written here on the screen and that is written. So either you can understand or comprehend through oral means or through what is written on the screen. The next is descriptive versus perspective. What is the difference? Descriptive explains how the facts are. So how the language is used in the real or the imagined situation is descriptive. Perspective is how it should be used. So a kind of ideological framework, how this should be used actually is what is perspective. Descriptive is the present way how it is used and not how ought to be. So perspective says how it ought to be. However, descriptive says how it is. A major difference. Clear? The next is synchronic versus diachronic. Diachronic talks about historical development, how the changes took place between Old English, Modern English, Latin English, present English, and that is diachronic. Synchronic is how we describe the study at a theoretical point of time, where we disregard any changes that might take place to describe the state of language. And that is synchronic. So, language, as we started, can be speech versus written. It can be descriptive versus perspective. Perspective is ought to be, how we want it to be. It's an ideological perspective. Synchronic is the theoretical, at this theoretical point of time, how the language is. Diachronic, how it evolved as part of history. Langue and Parole, what is the difference? Parole is the act of speaking and Langue is the language system which is shared among the people. So Langue and Parole are the two terms which have been divided by Saussure, Ferdinand de Saussure. Langue actually explains the impersonal phenomena of the language, which is mainly the science, and it is shared by the community people. Parole is how you speak in an actual situation and it is more personal. It is a series of gestures, expressions, speech acts that would be done, and this is a parole, how the speaker actually puts the point into view. Langue is how it is shared by the community of the speaker. So the extension of the speech, we can say it is in the way of greeting, warning, inviting someone. So all of those are part of it. The next is competence versus performance. The performance is your actual realization of the language knowledge. So it is under a given set, you actually perform and you get to know how much knowledge you have in terms of language. Competence is your knowledge of the language that you have mastered and that would be able to produce indefinite number of sentences and recognize any mistakes if there. So that talks about your competence, how well you are in a given field, and that is what is competence. So Himes basically focused on communicative competence, saying that communication can be more competent through the various well-explained knowledges, how well a person has mastered and recognized the mistakes. The next is functionalism versus formalism. Now, functionalism is how you study the form of language. However, on the other hand, we have formalist, which talks about intuition in terms of grammar. So how the mathematical theories of language develop is formalist. Functionalist is how the language form as a social function or a means of communication, how well you communicate to others.